Many years ago, there was some comic strip artist who had apparently, I suppose he'd apparently met a rather dogmatic devotee. So he drew a cartoon that was published in a quite widely read newspaper on the west coast of the United States. And the cartoon depicted, your normal citizen walking down the street. And then suddenly he meets a devotee. And one of the very big-bodied, freshly shaven brahmachari with a very sharp look in his eye. And the brahmachari grabs him by the shirt front and pulls him very close and starts to preach to him. And the preaching gets hotter and hotter, and then the cartoon depicts all kinds of smoke coming out and covering the whole scene. And then the last scene, you see that person, that innocent public man, he's laying on the sidewalk like that with a book shoved down his throat. You see the devotee walking away counting the lakshmi. So, through the years, I'm sure those of you who are older devotees, I know myself, have heard complaints from persons who have met devotees and have more or less got the philosophy shoved down their throat. So this type of approach, this type of presentation is never identified with good philosophy, even in the West. Even in the West, the idea of a philosopher is someone, again, who is a very intelligent and reasonable person who can make good arguments that are convincing in and of themselves. He doesn't need to shout and scream and threaten you with hellfire and damnation and force you. He can convince you by his words. So this is very important for each of us because we are trying to become preachers. Another feature that is traditionally associated with philosophy, good philosophers, which is very closely allied with what I've just said, is self-control. You see, the greatest philosophers also in the West, the number one philosopher in the West is Socrates, and he's very celebrated for his self-control. Prabhupada praised him. Prabhupada said that Socrates is a mukta purush. Mukta purush means a liberated person. Because he met his death without flinching. He was sentenced to death, and there's a whole story about this. Prabhupada just very briefly presented it. But the complete story is that the city of Athens, the government, they actually didn't want to kill Socrates. They wanted to get rid of him. But he was so influential, because he was speaking the doctrine of the eternal soul and reincarnation. So up to a point it was very similar to Krishna consciousness. And so it was a great challenge to their materialism. They were materialistic, so they just wanted to get rid of him. So they made some charge that he's corrupting the youth with strange ideas, going against our religion. And they sentenced him to death, that he would have to die by drinking poison. But they delayed the death sentence by, I forget how long, it was at least a month, maybe several months. And the whole idea was, and they just kept him under house arrest. You stay in this house, and then we will come to you with the poison and you must drink it. And he had ample opportunity to escape. And his friends were coming and saying, go, come with us, we'll take you to another city. There are other cities in Greece, so they all were independently ruled. And he said, no. He said, my mission is to preach here in Athens. The Athenian people are the most intelligent. All those other cities of people are less intelligent. And my message is for the most intelligent people, so why should I go? And if they want me to die, as he said, if they want to kill me, first they have to catch me. Meaning, I am spirit soul. So he thought that this is a perfect way to demonstrate the truth of his philosophy. I will drink the poison, happily, and I will preach to my death. And that's what he did. So Prabhupada very much appreciated Socrates, although he's a Western philosopher. Actually, Prabhupada once said, he's the only philosopher there ever was in the West. Because he was so firmly defending the soul, the eternal soul. Yeah? So, this self-control, this is always traditionally associated with the great philosophers. And so this is also a goal, certainly a very, very prominent goal in our Krishna consciousness process, to become Goswami indeed, Srila Prabhupada says, in Vedic culture, if one is not a Goswami, if one is not self-controlled, then nobody really cares what they have to say in terms of philosophy or higher knowledge. You see? Why did Buddhism, yes, ask yourself this question, why did Buddhism become prominent in India? Buddhism is atheism. Or why did Mayavadi philosophy become prominent in India? Why? When the Indian people, as we see, they're so religious by nature, even now you can see, in the middle of Kali Yuga, Indian people are so, when we go on the Padayatra, I'm sure you saw, villagers coming out, the policemen, they're coming out like this, bowing, you see, so naturally pious, and yet such ferocious, atheistic, voidistic philosophies like Buddhism and Mayavadi philosophy became prominent here. How is that possible? And the answer is because Buddha and Shankaracharya themselves were Goswami. They were because Buddha is a Vishnu avatar, and Shankaracharya is avatar or expansion of Shiva, who is Yogi Raj, master of the senses. So they were speaking something that from the Vedic point of view is total nonsense. But it was accepted. Why? Because people could see, oh, they're not ordinary. They're self-controlled. Therefore, they must be realized. That is always the test. That is always the test. If you have realized what you are speaking, then it will be shown in how you are controlling your senses, your mind, your tongue, your belly, your genital. If these are under control, then in Vedic culture you are believed, you are accepted. So again, if we become very angry at the slightest provocation, someone challenges, we're trying to present Krishna consciousness, and someone offers a bit of a challenging question, immediately we become angry, our face becomes red and our eyes become penetrating, glaring, and we start to shout. Then people will think, that's also a principle, that he who easily becomes angry, he exposes himself to ridicule. You see? There's some Chinese art of war written by some general. He's given 5 principles, and this is one of them. That this is a weakness. A weakness is to become easily angry, because then you become open to ridicule. People will say, and that's what happens, Again, referring to that comic. You see. So if we actually embrace the principles of real philosophy, meaning also principles of self-control and of reasoned thinking and very systematic, thorough presentation which is convincing, then we will become effective preachers, because these qualities are sattvic and therefore all attractive. You see? People, if they meet someone who's very reasonable, you see, who's very open, that means to hear what the other side is saying and then replying in very measured, tones, not becoming agitated, and convincingly refuting all arguments and remaining self-controlled, then they're attracted. They think, oh, what a nice person. Here's a person that I can accept as my teacher. Yeah, I want to become like this person myself. And so this is how one becomes an effective preacher. So this is why, although philosophy, yes, admittedly, it is difficult, but this is why we should, for the sake of this mission of Krishna conscious questions, yes, it's difficult, but if we pursue this matter, then we will become effective preachers.